2 Minute Drill podcast time. It's Jim Monahan along with that guy, Chris Swendeman. And Swendy, it's time to play everybody's favorite new game show, Knee Jerk Reaction Time. If we had a mascot for the whole thing, it would be Frank Fleming, and we'll get into that. I'm sure everybody knows who Frank is. His
Frank the
rants on the
Tank.
Mets and NJ Transit and the New Jersey Devils. So we'll
Yes.
get into Frank in a little bit. But I did want to get your reaction on some of the things that have happened over the first full weekend of the 2026 regular season in Major League Baseball. And let's start with ABS, the automatic balls and
Mhm.
strike system.
I was a little skittish, to be honest, before the season started. I thought maybe this is going to be a little hokey. You want the natural, play of the game, what the umpires, and it is a human game. Let the umpires dictate it. After 1 week, I am sold. This was so much fun to watch. And the crowds have been getting into it. As a Boston Red Sox fan, you know that it helped decide one of their games. The Baltimore and Minnesota game came down to the ninth inning, and the ABS helped, kind of assisted Baltimore get the win when Josh Bell would have walked. It turned around to be two strikes, and Ryan Helsley got the strikeout for the end of the game. It's really exciting to watch. Everybody but umpire CB Buckner is a fan of this right now. If you did not watch the Boston Red Sox Cincinnati Reds game on Sunday, CB had a little bit of a trouble finding the plate, but the ABS system did not. And after a while, the fans were just cheering because and you could see in his face, you could see he's getting flustered by his. I mean, I think there was like 6 reversals, something like that. Eugenio Suarez, the third baseman for the Reds, went on back-to-back calls, tapped the helmet, and he won both of them. I mean, so umpire Buckner had a little bit of trouble on Sunday, but you know, I think it's going to be really good for the league. I think it's great for hitters. And I think the league is really going to have to take a look and at the umpires, and the umpires are really going to have to up their game.
Yeah, no question about it. The umpires are going to have to get better. So far, over the first few days of the Major League Baseball regular season, 54% of the calls have been overturned, which
Wow.
means 46% have been right. So, I mean,
Right.
it's close. It's close. But
Yeah.
catchers are having the most success rate. Their
Oh yeah.
heads aren't moving, they're just sitting there.
Yep.
Unlike a pitcher whose head can move. If you're a
Right.
right-handed pitcher, you have a tendency to fall off to the first base side. If you're a lefty, you have a tendency to fall off to the third base side. Either way, your head is moving a little bit. So some teams are telling their pitchers, we'd rather the catcher make the call. The catchers have been right 64% of the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
But
that's big.
like you said, the fans are in it. It is not slowing the game down to any,
No.
major amount. They've gotten a lot of these down to under 10 seconds. And, again, the fans like it. So
Yeah.
give them what they want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I referenced back to the Baltimore game, but it was an exciting finish. And I think one of the pitches, it was within zero point 0.3 inches of the edge of the strike zone. So, I mean, this is really, really accurate. And I mean, you always have the human factor, and humans are going to error. It happens. But this has really been interesting for the first week, and it's really helped hitters a lot. I'm going to be interested to see this over a full season and what the numbers are after the season's over.
All right, you're wearing your Yankee cap, so let's go to the Bronx Bombers. Knee jerk reaction. Aaron Judge's first few games.
Mixed bag. Couple bombs. One that dented an ambulance out in San Francisco, but I thought the hits that he got were very Judge-like. But the first game and knee-jerk reaction, everybody take a breath. That got me annoyed with Yankee fans. Like, all right, he got the golden sombrero. I get it. Not the way you want to see your captain start the season, but it's game one of 162. Relax. Everybody take a breath. He'll be fine. Would I have liked to seen less Ks, since that the whole, WBC? debacle. I would have liked to have seen more hits than just home runs. But again, we're 3 games in. I'm okay with what he's doing so far.
Met fans can appreciate this. Dave Kingman
Wow.
2.0.
Wow. We went Dave Kingman, huh? All right. Wow. I mean, not the worst comparison, but I think Judge can eke out a single and a double every so often, where I don't think we saw many from Kingman over the years. So I'll give the edge to Judge over Kingman.
How about Pete Alonso? What's your
Couple
reaction to that
hits,
so far?
couple hits, no home runs. Met fans dancing in the street saying, you know, how much of a genius their team is for getting rid of him. Uh, but it's he's in a new ballpark. He's with a new team. The nerves are there. They started at home. There's plenty of mitigating factors for Pete to get off to a little bit of a slow start. I kind of expected him to, and just to change, he's in a different league.
Hmm.
So he's got a lot to work through. I'm not worried about it. Pete's going to get his numbers, and Met fans are going to be aggravated. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
I think Pete's numbers will be, decent number of home runs and
Yeah,
RBIs and maybe,
absolutely,
a 250 batting average somewhere in there. Let's
definitely.
stay with the Mets, sort of. Alonso, of course,
Yep.
moving to the Orioles from the Mets. And that would be Bo Bichette, who is off to a very rocky start. What is he, 1 for 14 so far?
Yep. And I thought he handled it very well with the New York media when they asked him, "Did you expect to be booed?" And he said, "I got to be honest. I thought it would have happened already." So I, you I I I give him credit for that. To be able to laugh at yourself is a big thing, and especially with New York media, there's a lot of pressure. And obviously, Met fans wanted it to happen yesterday. Um, and I'm sure they wanted Bichette to come out because every replacement that the Mets have, like Bichette, like Semyon, they want them to come out of the gate, all guns blaring, because these are the replacements for guys that they loved, like Pete, like McNeil, and other players that were jettisoned. So I I figured this was going to be the Met fans' take. It's just going to be fun to see how long this goes and till Bichette, Semyon, and the rest of them get comfortable. But Bichette is definitely the glaring, the one that's in the eye of the Met fan right now, especially because he came from the Phillies, no less.
Yeah, and we were talking about Frank Fleming, and if I'm sure listeners know who he is, he got his start, if you will, on Barstool after a rant about NJ Transit some years ago. He was stuck in Penn Station and could not
Yes,
get out to Queens City Field for a Met game. I think it was the home opener, as a matter of
yes,
fact.
it
And
was.
Barstool saw him and go, "We
Yep.
we need that guy." So Frank, he's chewing on stuff if things don't go right. He
His
called the Bichette
glasses.
signing, it could be possibly the worst free agent signing in franchise history. I like, Frank, maybe we want to pump the brakes a little bit here. And this is part of the problem. Sports talk radio, as much fun as it is to listen to and participate with,
Hmm.
it just allows people with over the top opinions that aren't necessarily grounded in a whole lot of fact to have the platform. And social media has made it even worse. And, Frank is a really good example. I hate to single him out, but he's kind of the
Poor
poster
Frank.
boy for the whole thing.
Right.
Watching him just lose his mind over Bo Bichette's first three
Right.
games. Again, can we pump the brakes a little bit? And then apparently the other day he was out at Felician College and he was giving, well, I guess his version of a pep talk, telling the players not to be feeble. I beg your pardon.
What?
Yeah, don't be feeble and don't be afraid to hit the ball the other way. I mean, you want to talk about knee-jerk reactions? He's the poster boy for the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would have thought Bichette would have had a longer leash only because I mentioned the Phillies before, and what I meant by that was It's a victory lap, I would think, for Met fans because you basically swiped him from Philly. The Phillies were about to sign Bichette, and here come the Mets. Last minute swooped in and they signed Bichette. That's a win either way to me because you took him away from a rival and now he's on your team. But I that's why I thought he would have had a little bit of a longer leash. But Met fans seem to have a short memory when it comes to that, especially. And it begins with our buddy Frank the Tank.
And let's go back to the Yankees for a second. They absolutely abused the San Francisco Giants over the weekend. And the Giants, of course, made big news after the end of last season, bringing in a guy named Tony Vitello, who had been the head coach at the University of Tennessee. And while there are guys who have gone from the college coaching ranks to the major league coaching ranks, Vitello is the first college head coach to go straight from there to managing a big league team. And one of the things that I think is happening is he's realizing that this is not even close to the same game. Yeah, you throw the ball, you hit the ball, you catch the ball. But he's dealing with people, athletes on a completely different level of ability than he was in college.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to bring the NIL money in, whatever, okay, it's still not the same platform. I mean, you have high priced players, you have, a front office that needs to win. There's a lot of pressure on them. And I don't know if this was the right move, but I don't know if you saw the interview he did over the weekend during one of the games where he said, "Well, I can't talk down to these guys; they're the same age as me."
I know what
Maybe
he
not,
meant, but yeah, it's a bad
it's
look.
the optics are not good with that, and it just didn't seem like the smart thing to say. Sometimes saying less is okay. Um, and we always go back to our favorite movie, Bull Durham. And when Kevin Costner is coaching Nuke LaLoosh on what to say when he does an interview, I just want to help the ball club. And he's standing there, you know what? Sometimes that's okay. And being in your first year and being a rookie manager and having no big league experience prior to that, you probably should mark your words a little bit more carefully than if you were a seasoned manager or somebody who went through the minor leagues for a few years, or if you were a bench coach. You're going right from Tennessee to the San Francisco Giants. And sometimes, again, maybe you don't want to say that much, to give the reporters anything to write about.
Now, mind you, Vitello was extremely successful at the college level.
Absolutely.
I mean, incredibly successful. The guy knows what he's doing. But again, the game moves at a different speed. And I've never had any kind of professional experience. I can't speak to it at all. And my college coaching experience, if you will, was one game in a summer league. But just from that alone, I can tell you that the difference in the speed of the game from the high school level to the college level
Right.
is off the charts. And I can only begin to imagine, even as great a program as Tennessee was under Vitello, I can only begin to imagine how much different the game is at the highest level of professional baseball. He's not even in A ball. He's
Now,
made the jump, right to the big leagues. It has to be overwhelming.
you know, if this was if remember last year, one of the pitchers for the Angels, they brought him right up from when they drafted him the year before, and he skipped. I think it was. I don't even think he started in single A. I think they drafted him last year and they started him, and it went horribly wrong, as you can imagine. Now you're doing it with a manager. While it's different because you're performing on the field with no minor league experience, I'm thinking it's a very similar issue that he's going to have. But you know what? Where the pitcher, you could bring him all the way back to high A and let him start over and build up, his experience. You can't do that with the manager once you've put him in the hot seat.
There's a
If
guy
you
who pitched for the Giants. His name is Mike Lacoste. He pitched from 1978 to 1991, and over the weekend he put a call into a San Francisco sports radio
Yes,
show.
that's right.
And he went off. He really went off on the Giants. I believe he pitched for the organization for 6 years, and he really, really went off on them. Now, granted, 91 is not ancient history, but I do think the game has changed
Mhm.
since Lacoste left. I think the game's
Yes,
a little younger, and I think it's a little faster than it was when he played. But you get the point of what he
right.
was saying. Like, we're a different animal at the major league level. You can't just
Yes.
expect somebody to come up from college baseball and have an immediate impact. There's going to be a huge learning curve for a guy like Vitello. Now, it's not New York, it's not Philadelphia, it's not Boston. So being in San Francisco, he probably has a bit of a leash. And I'm not sure what the fan expectations for the Giants are this year, but I can't imagine that that learning curve or that leash that he's on is going to be all that long.
No, and that's what you kind of feel bad for the guy because who wouldn't want to manage if you're a manager in college, minor leagues, whatever it is, your ultimate goal is always to make it to the big leagues, to make it to the dance. And no one's going to fault him for taking the job if somebody offered it to him because any one of us would do the same, but you're almost setting him up to fail. And that's not unless he had some amazing bench coaches and pitching coach around him, and the entire ball club is so solidified with great assistant coaches. You're just setting him up for eventual failure because you don't know what you don't know. And if he's never been at this level before, it's all learning on the job. And you know what? When you're managing a big league ball club, and one that's got a winning record, a history of winning record like the Giants over the years, people aren't going to want to wait. And you know what? When you start out the first weekend with one run, I mean, Major League Baseball is hard,
Yeah.
pitching and hitting. But when you get one run across the plate in the entire weekend, that's not the start you want. I mean, it was just a brutal start for him, and I almost feel for the guy because unless he can turn it around somewhere in the season, it's just going to be bad for him, and I just don't see it ending well for him.
I can only begin to imagine how Christopher Mad Dog Russo is handling this whole thing. You want to talk about a guy who's
I
known
didn't
for
even think of
knee-jerk
that.
reactions.
They put him they put this guy out of college in it. Oh, I can't even do it justice right now because I can't even think fast enough as he would be speaking to rip this poor guy apart after one weekend and one run in the books after an entire weekend series. And you know how he feels about the Yankees, so it's probably just doubling down on it right now for him.
So, you know what? As we wrap up this week's episode, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. What's your knee jerk reaction so far for the 2026 season, whether it's Bo Bichette or Aaron Judge or ABS or the Giants with a college coach leading the ranks? If you like what we do, tell a friend. If you hate what we do, tell an enemy. Just make sure you tell somebody. And like, comment, do all that stuff. And we will talk to you next week. Thanks, Swendeman.
You got it, Jim. Have a good week.